in this continent. In your country, it's happening in Mozambique. What are these young people telling the African leadership? Thank you.
Thank you. First, I will give you history because history is important in a development. You cannot develop without history. That's where we come from. But I'm saying you don't want to live in history. We are living for the future. But because of history, we don't want to repeat the mistakes which were made in the past. We want to use it to inform what we want to do going forward. Yes, it is true that currently the bigger portion of the budget of the AU is funded by European Union, other countries. Now, that is also historical. But ask yourself, why should that be the case? Who is funding the European Union? The European Union is funding itself. The member states of the European Union fund the European Union. Why is it that AU should be depending on foreign funding for its operations? That is, again, a question that needs to be answered by the leadership of the continent. I'm saying that we can be able to mobilize our resources within our continent to fund our development. But countries will contribute on the basis of the benefit they get from the organization. If it is just a dead-end investment, most countries should not see the need. But if they see that AU is doing something that is beneficial to themselves, I'm sure that most African countries will be willing to fund the activities of the AU. That is my view. Now, yes, the youth, I've mentioned that the African youth is vibrant, and African youth needs to be challenged. African youth needs to be empowered. If African youth is empowered, it will become a source for wealth creation in our country. There are countries similar to Africa. You see, you need the economies of scale. There are some countries which are just too small in terms of population to be able to benefit from demography. But if they come together, then you will have the benefits of the economies of scale. You look at China. China's population is almost the same like African population today. China first China spent a lot of resources in manpower development. They developed a highly skilled manpower, the youth of China. So that when they liberalized their economy, they opened it up, China became a very, very attractive investment destination. So most of European manufacturers saw one, highly skilled and cheap labor. Two, they also saw a cheap source of raw materials. And that's why they rushed to China. You look at these automobile manufacturers, Mercedes, BMW, VW, Peugeot, Citroën, Volvo, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, Hyundai, they're all in China. All manufactured in China and they're exporting to the rest of the world. Just irrespective of China's economic, and political philosophy, they rush to China and produce in China. Why can they come to Africa? The cheap materials that they are rushing for in China is made with raw materials from Africa. China imports bauxite from Africa to make aluminium products. It imports iron ore, copper ore from Africa to go and make copper cables, copper products, to go and make steel products in China. And they're still cheap in China. That's why the American companies are rushing there to China, the European companies. Why can't we do that in Africa itself? No, because China has now moved on. With that advantage that they created, China managed to move 600 million people from poverty to middle income status. So China today has got the biggest middle income in the world today. But China is no longer the cheapest today. China's labor cost is no longer that low. There's a gap down there which Africa can fill. And Africa can use the same scenario to be able to also take off. You've got the youth, and African youth today is very dynamic. African youth, if you look at the social media, it's dominated by African youth. You see, this AI, African youth actually have been able to get a hold of AI, and they're very much into it. So what you need is basically create facilities for them, have connectivity.
Mr. Prime Minister, my question was, what are the young people telling you in terms of the uprising that you're seeing in Kenya and in Mozambique? My question wasn't on China or AI, respectfully. What are the young people telling you when you see the young people protesting, uprising in your country, in Mozambique? What are they telling you? It's not a question of how China has become advanced in the last 40 years or how AI will have an impact in our lives. But specifically, my question is, respectfully again, is what are you seeing, what are you feeling when you see young people do the uprising? We're beginning to see risking their lives and so many young people, Africans, dying in their own countries. Thank you.
That, of course, I was trying to answer maybe in a longer way, but yes, it's not just Kenya or Mozambique. Political challenges exist virtually in all countries in the world. It's not only in Africa. You'll find demonstrations in Colombia. You will find the other time in France, they were burning tires on the streets in Paris, and so on and so forth. So every country has got its political challenges. It's not only in Africa. It is all over the world. And those political challenges can be resolved within those countries themselves. You need to address the issues that the youth are raising. Like in Kenya, they are talking about the cost of living. They're talking about unemployment in Kenya. They're talking about corruption. You see, they talk about ethnic discrimination, things like those. So those are challenges that can be resolved within the context of Kenyan society. The same thing in Mozambique. They're talking about the elections. Elections have just been held, and some people believe that they are probably not as transparent. That there were some kind of cheating, probably in the process of announcement of results. That happens in virtually every society. You saw it in the U.S. the other time. People marching to the Congress, storming the Congress. So it is not only happening in Africa. It's happening all over the world, and there are solutions to those problems.
Thank you, thank you. And the very last question, let's have the gentleman there.